Hello, welcome to the Record Celtic Podcast, brought to you by NordVPN. Easily the best VPN for watching sporting events while you're abroad. This week, I'm joined by Record Sports' Ryan McDonald and Michael Gannon. Guys, how's it going?
All right, apart from a bit of toothache. Was at the dentist this morning, but apart from that, all good.
Mick, any toothache at your end? Are you all right?
No, I'm just too old, too cold, too skint, too hungry. It's too big. Well, the list goes on and on and on. Apart from that, I'm all right.
It was my birthday the other day, and my mum was like, "You're too old for presents now."
Oh, happy birthday, Daniel. I didn't realise it was your birthday.
Stupid, but thanks, Mick.
What age are you now? You want to be asking?
87.
37.
37, wow.
37.
89 I was born in.
I'm just a young pup compared to you two.
I know.
Oh.
Anyway, now that we're all depressed.
You're wishing you two boys are willing don't do hard graft.
Yeah, now that we're all warmed up, you guys were with Martin O'Neill earlier on today. We're recording on Tuesday.
Speaking of that, Martin was the only person I know that called me a young man.
There's plenty for us to talk about. We'll talk obviously about the upcoming fixtures. We'll talk a bit about the Ibrox ticket feud that seems to be rumbling on, and of course Oxlade-Chamberlain. But I thought I'd maybe ask guys. He was talking about the new guys that have come in, Joe Mavuka and Junior Adamu. What did he have to say about the new recruits?
Well, I've got to tread carefully because what he told us is it's not currently been put out yet. So to talk to us in the kind of the written press that the stuff's embargoed to later on. But what I can say, listen, I think obviously Adamu made an instant impression, got in there and got his goal, which will do him a lot of good. He seems like kind of a confident kind of lad. Adamu, when I was speaking to him last week, he said positive is his middle name or something like that. We thought it was literally his middle name. I said, oh really? He goes, no, not really. I mean, it's like no, it's a phrase. You never know. Sometimes that can be. You never know, eh? Third name was that's my third name, and I was like, oh, really? Aye? No. Just being stupid. But he got off to a flyer, and that'll do him the world of good. A guy who's maybe not at the best time of it at Freiburg of late. Getting off to that start, I'll give him a turbocharge, won't it? Mavuka, I think, is an interesting one because I don't think you could class it as a spectacular debut from the lad. I don't think I thought he had a decent first kind of 10-15 minutes against Dundee, and then seemed to lose a bit of confidence quite quickly. There's a few times I thought he could have went and beat his man and hit the byline, and he took the kind of safe choice and turned back and made a safer pass. I don't want to kind of condemn the lad straight away or doom him, but it looked at kind of shades of the kind of the Balikwisha debut against Rangers. That kind of a wee bit hesitant to go and be direct. So you get taken off at half time, which is sometimes a bit of a kind of slap in the chops, isn't it, for players? But Neil was spoken about him. I think the message will be: listen, don't jump to conclusions. Listen, it's like Celtic fans or any fans in general. As soon as they get first impression, he's a dumpling, he's a dud, he's not used, hopeless, a waste of money or a waste of a loan deal, whatever you want to call it. I think it's a case of he will come good. He's got a bit of pace and a bit of ability. Just needs to get a bit of confidence. I think that's all. I think clearly he's not at the best time of it with Lorient, and needs a wee cuddle, a wee bit of encouragement, and then hopefully he can kick on and come good. He
isn't a Norway international after all. He's got to have some pedigree. You think he's obviously got something going for him, I guess.
Yeah, Martin O'Neill was crying out for an explosive winger, so he does have pace. But like Mick said, it was a bit of an underwhelming debut. It was subbed at half time. Some people might say it was a bit harsh. It probably was, in all honesty. Like Paulo Bernardo was subbed off as well. But it's early days. He's just in the door. He was in the door a matter of 2 or 3 days before he was handed his first start. So he'll take time to adjust his new surroundings. Obviously get used to the way Celtic play, coping with the demands of the manager, the pressure from the stands and all that kind of stuff as well. So it's early days, but yeah, definitely room for improvement. But I think Junior Adamu was impressive. He obviously came off the bench, and what a way to introduce yourself with a dramatic last-minute goal. Well, last kick of the ball, wasn't it?
Aye.
To save Celtic's Scottish Cup dreams. So that was a positive. I think Celtic fans should be pretty excited about him. We spoke about it in the last podcast. He carries a decent bit of pedigree about him. He obviously performed at Champions League level. I think he scored against Bayern Munich and Chelsea as well. So he obviously has got quality. He might not have shown it over the last couple of seasons. He's obviously had a difficult couple of years at Freiburg in the Bundesliga, but if Celtic can get him up and running, then I think they could be on to a winner. He's versatile as well. He can play anywhere really across the front three. Another big positive as well was Big Tam, Thomas Chavancara. I thought he was excellent.
He's good.
His link-up play. He was unlucky maybe not to get a goal, and obviously was probably unlucky not to get a penalty. I think Martin Neal was definitely claiming for that one at today's presser. So I thought that was a positive as well. I think he does provide a focal point up front. I thought his link-up play was pretty good. Some neat touches, bringing others into the game. So I think he's made a decent start to his Celtic career. And there's been a lot of doom and gloom over the January signings, but those two in particular. Plus, you've got Julian Haroho and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain to come into the mix. Sorry, Julian Haroho's been excellent as well. But you've still got Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain to come into the mix as well and provide a bit of X factor. So I think. I think there's plenty to be positive about. Obviously, we could be having a different conversation if Celtic were knocked out of the cup at the weekend, but they're not. They're through, and they've got a monumental game against the Rangers, which I'm sure we'll come to.
We will come to that, and we will come to the Ox in a wee minute or two. But I actually wanted to give props to another Celtic player, Sebastian Tunecki, because look, I've been guilty of giving him a bit of stick. I think we've talked about it in this podcast that his end ball, his end product hasn't been up to scratch, but a really good goal at the weekend and an assist too. I mean, you can't really say fairer than that.
Yeah, that's the level he's got to be at now. Week in, week out at Celtic. I mean, you've seen it in the past with the players that have done well at the club. You mean, look at Nicholas Kuhn's kind of 6 months he had at that level when he was doing it every week. And that's what he's got to do, and he hasn't done that so far. He's had a couple of good games here and there and looked the part, and then in games where he's not really getting involved. This is the concern. I think, listen, Celtic just now, what Martin's got now, he didn't have at the start of January, he's got options. I mean, he's got he's got 3 strikers now that he can pick from. He's got obviously the 2 new boys and Iniacho, who's back. Whether or not we see much of him remains to be seen. But he's got the options there to switch and change in game if need be. But these guys are going to be so reliant on service. And this is where Celtic have struggled a lot this season. And in particular, I think in recent weeks under Martin Neal, he's done a phenomenal job to get results. I mean, you can't argue with the domestic results and the European results he's managed to achieve. But I don't think anyone is kind of fooled by the performances, because you look at Falkirk, Dundee at the weekend, Auchinleck when he made some changes. I mean, Dundee United was a good one, but a lot of the performances have been pretty iffy. And the Hearts at Tynecastle, they're not really controlling games, not dominating the ball that they used to. They're giving the ball away an awful lot, not winning the ball back high up the pitch, and more important, not creating an awful lot. When you had the kind of the wild Wilfred Nancy 6 weeks, and they created loads of chances and missed loads of chances, and you think if they get a striker in there, they could maybe get results. Couldn't defend, mind you, couldn't keep Wayne's out of close at the back, so it wouldn't really matter really, unless you're winning 4-3 every week. But under Martin, the chance creation has dried up a wee bit. I mean, they did a bit more against Dundee, but not that many clear-cut chances. I mean, Shankara, I think, has looked decent. He needs more service, and I think Adamu will need service, and that's going to fall on the white guys. So Tunecki and Maeda on one side, you've got Yang and Mavuka on the other side. A lot is going to be on these guys, and then in the middle of the park, I don't think it's creating enough either. Negrin gets goals, and he does create in the game. He pops up in good positions, but they're not threading balls through, or chance creation from that part of the pitch isn't that great. Hatate's form's off a cliff.
Yeah.
Bernardo came in. I mean, I've mentioned it on Hotline Live last night. Bernardo, I think it's a wee bit easy ride. I mean, people are battering Hatate and McGregor. Bernardo, for a guy who Celtic wouldn't push the boat out to get, got him on loan and signed him permanently. He's done not a lot for a long period of time, and any chance he's been given, he's not taking it.
No.
You think Oxlade-Chamberlain's going to be the one to slot in for him, and him and Engels will be the ones that are kind of in the middle of the park. You need Negrin for the goal threat. But it's all about having, they've got options now, but need to create chances. I think that's the key. I think need to get back to dominating the ball and creating more clean cut, not just. I mean, certainly 20 shots in goal, but the goalkeeper, Dundee goalkeeper, didn't have many saves to make. Do you know what I mean?
It didn't feel like that, did it?
And even after when they're chasing the game at late, I must admit I didn't think that Celtic were going to score on Saturday night. They didn't look like scoring, and it's been that way a couple of times. I think they got out of jail a wee bit against Falkirk as well. I say out of jail, right? I think they deserve to win these games, right? But they were in the balance and didn't have control in the match. That's what I mean. I don't mean they deserve to get gubbed. I just think that they haven't really controlled games, and that means that it's dicey. I mean, those games, this period of games coming up, if you're going to play that way and not have control of a game, it becomes a bit of a each way bet during the match. That you can only go along with performances like that so often, and results will catch up with you. That's the reality. We saw it with Rangers; their performances weren't great, but what they did was they got the results, and then the performances have started to improve. Hearts, I think, are a bit like Celtic, that a lot of their games are very much a toss of the coin, and they fell on that right side a lot this season, more often than not. And fair play to them, but I think that has started catching up with them a wee bit, and it might, unless the performances improve a bit, that'll catch up with them and sit on the same boat. They need to improve all-round performances, or the results are going to start to bite them. And by the way, the ones that are coming up, I've got the teeth out, ready to bite them.
Oh, aye. You can look at some of the upcoming fixtures on your screen now if you're watching it. I mean, Stuttgart away in the 26th, then obviously we know about Rangers away twice in the space of a week, and Aberdeen sandwiched in the middle just for good measure. So, I mean, any Celtic team, that is a very tough run. As you say, Mick, it's a Celtic team that isn't really controlling games at the minute, isn't really at full cylinders. So that's going to be really tough. I wanted to obviously mention Oxlade-Chamberlain because he was training with Celtic today. He's obviously signed on to the end of the season since we last had a Celtic podcast. Obviously, we're recording this before the match against Livingston on Wednesday night. But do you guys think there's actually a realistic chance he could start against Livy?
I don't think he'll start. I mean, he hasn't kicked a ball in anger since May when he left Besiktas. So I do think he'll be involved in the matchday squad. I'd probably be surprised if he wasn't. I wouldn't be, if Celtic are winning maybe by 2 or 3 goals, I don't. You'd probably expect him to come off the bench at some point, make his debut, and get up and running. I've heard this argument about Oxlade-Chamberlain and how he's obviously been out of action for so long, but it was the same with Julian Araujo as well. I think he'd played 1 game in something like 9 months, but he came in and hit the ground running, and he's been excellent for Celtic, as we touched upon earlier. And fans are already clamouring him from the start, and he's reached some top levels already. People are saying he's even better than Alistair Johnson. So he hasn't taken a lot of time to get up and running. So I think it's obviously a different position. What Celtic need to do carefully in the case of Oxlade-Chamberlain is make sure they don't overload him, because I think that's exactly what happened with Kelechi Iheanacho. Obviously, Iheanacho came in just after deadline day in the summer. Celtic desperately needed him to start right away and lead the line, but I think because there was so much pressure put on him, so much reliance on him, and Brendan Rodgers was really hanging his hat on him to start most games, injuries caught up with him, and he's obviously faced a lengthy spell out of action. He's come back, obviously, and he's looking a wee bit rusty, but again, it'll take time to get up to match fitness. So I think that's what Celtic just need to be a wee bit wary of with Oxlade-Chamberlain. He is only in the door for until the end of the season with the option to extend that. So you really want to get the most out of him. So I think, like they've done with Kieran Tierney as well, they've carefully managed his fitness. They've gradually built him up, and now Tierney's looking as robust as ever. He took a sore one at the weekend there. But he's still. I believe he's still going to be available for the game against Livingston. So he's been fit and available for the majority of matches. So they need to make sure Oxlade-Chamberlain is as well, and just gradually manage him and get him up to peak fitness. And I'm sure Celtic will reap the rewards from that.
Well, that's the problem, but they don't have time. They don't have time to wait for him to get up to peak fitness. I mean, Celtic got 14 league games left in Europe, and also the Scottish Cup as well. They don't really have time to say, we'll take 4 or 5 games, we'll give you half hour here and 40 minutes there, then an hour. They don't have that option. I think Celtic need Oxlade-Chamberlain in the team and performing, because I think it's almost like the key to the rest of the campaign for Celtic to get control of games, to dominate teams again. I think he's got to. I mean, he's a deal to the summer. He's got 14 games. I think he's been training for 3 months. I think you've got to lob him in from the start this week, and try and get an hour at him in each of these games at the weekend, because Celtic are going to need this guy for these big games that are coming up, because I don't think they're equipped to deal with these games without him. So it's a case of, I think it might be a case a bit like Iheanacho when he came in at Celtic, and Rodgers thought, well, I need him to play because I haven't got any choice but to throw him in and let's see how he reacts. The difference between Iheanacho was he turned up. We'd seen that he didn't look fit. We'd watched him for Middlesbrough, and then, let's be honest, looking pretty unfit. So it wasn't that big a surprise to see him turning up not fit and then breaking down. Whereas Oxlade-Chamberlain, by all accounts, has been training full pelt at Arsenal since November. I know it's not match fitness, but he's only going to get match fit with playing matches. I think Celtic need to go, you know what, we've taken a chance on you. I'm sure he's not on washers. He'll be earning decent money as well. I think it's one of a bust for Celtic now this time of the season. They can't afford any slip-ups. I think and hope that he can stay together and get through this spell. Listen, I would let him. They can't play in Europe, so that's 2 games right away. So then you're missing. So he's only got 14 games in a cup tie. He's got 15 games he can play this season. I mean, there's no time to muck about. It's straight in, mate. Patch yourself up, take a deep breath, and get through this. To me,
I just think I think there needs to be a kind of realistic expectation, though, because the fact that he hasn't played for so long. I know I made the point about Julian Araujo, but then you've got obviously the example of Kelechi Iheanacho, and as I said, you've overloaded him with games. So I do think if he is going to make an impact, I don't think he should start tomorrow. I think that would be too early for him. Celtic have got options in the middle of the park. They might not be at their best form at the minute, but you've got Arnie Engels, they rejected £25 million for. You've got Callum McGregor, who's the first name in the team sheet, the captain, and then you've got Benjamin Negron, who's the top goal scorer.
When do you start then? Because once you get through these 2 games, I mean, you get home game against Livy and away to Kelly.
Yeah.
You think, well, it's too early for him now. So then you start him against Hibs, big game. You start him against Rangers, big game. I think away, big game. So at some point he's going to have to get in and get these games on his belt. I mean, I think this is an ideal game to get. I think if he's toiling after half an hour tomorrow night, then deal with it. I just think he's got to get in and get moving. I don't think there's any choice to kind of. I mean, the Tierney was different. I think they brought in Sriracha, and you think they can rotate the two of them. I know Sriracha get injured. But I think he's got. That was a start of the season, and you get 38 games to go. They get a 14-game sprint for the line now.
Personally, Mark, would have been the Hibs game. You've got Livingston tomorrow. As they come off the bench for half an hour. You've got Rugby Park and artificial surface as well, which
not ideal. Yeah,
and then you've obviously got the Stuttgart game, which you mentioned. That gives him a full week's training, and then Hibs. I think that's the game which he should probably be targeting to start. And then from there, you've got again Stuttgart, then you've got Ibrox, Pittodrie, and then Ibrox again. So I think if he can start that Hibs game and really get motoring, then I think that's a realistic timeline for me, rather than throwing him in the deep end right away against Livingston and obviously Kilmarnock's artificial surface. I just think that might be a bit risky.
Martin,
I think you can't have any risk. The games over that 10 days spell are going to make about the season.
Yeah.
You need to know if this guy's robust enough to cope with it, and you only really know if I'm playing.
You would think Martin O'Neill was obviously clever enough to know that, look, if this guy's going to take 3-4 weeks to get up to speed, there's no point in it.
Season can be finished in 3 or 4 weeks.
Exactly. Yeah. So surely there's something, and again, as you say, Ryan, he's not played since May, but there's got to be something that tells O'Neill, right, this guy could come in and hit the ground running. Because, like we said, there's no point otherwise. Again,
another thing as well is what you've got to consider is he has got a kind of dodgy injury history, especially in recent years as well. So, again, that is a factor that you can't just ignore that. So, the worst thing you can do is throw him in there and he gets injured, and then that's him out for 3-4 months. I agree, the fixtures coming up from essentially Stuttgart onwards or make or break, those 4 or 5 games are they're going to define Celtic's season. So yeah, as I say, I think if they can gradually phase them in over the next 2 games against Livingston and Kilmarnock, and then get them really motoring for the game against Hibs, then I think that might be the thinking with Martin O'Neill. But I could be totally wrong. You can start tomorrow night, score a hat trick, and everything I said has been a lot of nonsense.
Listen, we're never wrong in the Celtic pod. We're never wrong now. But just to finish on Oxlade-Chamberlain, I put some photos on the screen there if you're watching a little bit earlier on with these various trophies he picked up in his time at Liverpool. I mean, if he's even 75, 80% of the player that he was down there, I mean, that is a game-changing signing, Mick, I would say.
Well, that has to be the kind of hope. He's not going to be the player he was back then. He's 32 now. He has had injuries. He's a bit of a mixed bag out in Turkey. I mean, it's various spells out the team, either with injury or just. I think he actually got bombed out the team by Gio van Bronckhorst for about 5 months at one point.
You're right.
There's a few kind of clashes of personalities behind the scenes and all that stuff. So he has had the kind of couple of years of not doing an awful lot. But there's no doubt his quality. I mean, we've all seen it over the years. I mean, he was top notch at Arsenal and Liverpool. You don't get to be a Champions League winner or a Premier League winner unless you're a top quality player. But that's a while ago now. So it is going to be interesting to see where he is. I just think that the time to kind of ease folk in gently is now past for Celtic. It's now these are the last throw the dice stuff for Celtic. A season that's been fairly shambolic from day one. It's now they're still by hook or by crook. They're still in a chance to win the league and still in the cup. But you have to hope all these pieces fall together. And Oxlade-Chamberlain is a major part of it. I think midfield hasn't worked pretty much all season.
Aye, you're right.
The balance has not been right in there. The balance has not been right in there all season. Anytime Celtic have been a wee bit more offensive, they've been wide open. It's caused them an issue. When they've changed things around, they've not created enough. They've never had a balance all season, and they've got to hope that this guy can bring them that balance. He's a guy who can keep the ball, he can make a pass, he can beat a man, or he used to be able to beat a man. We don't know if that's still in his locker at 32. But all the Celtic fans can do is hope that they get a fraction of that player that can do that, and it helps to find this midfield balance that's been lacking.
Yeah. The other big talking point from a Celtic point of view, guys, this week has been the ongoing ticket feud that seems to be kind of burning away in the background regarding Celtic's Scottish Cup match with Rangers at Ibrox, the quarter-final draw. Martin O'Neill was talking about it today, guys. Can you enlighten us any more?
Yeah, I think obviously Scottish Cup rules state that away teams can push for up to an allocation of 20% of the home capacity. So in theory, that would mean Celtic could request around about 10,000 tickets. Now, if we're being honest, Celtic might request that, maybe a bit ambitious, but I think the amicable solution will be for Celtic to get the full Broom loan. I'm also sure that Rangers will be happy to give that away. The Rangers are the team that cut the allocation back in 2018, but I think that will be the end solution. I think the Celtic fans, 7,000 Celtic fans, will take up reclaim the Broom loan stand, and that'll be it. But it won't come easy. There'll be a circus round about it. Might take a week or two to resolve until the tickets are finalised. But yeah, I think that's the sensible solution. There's no segregation issues. That was the traditional allocation that lasted decades at Ibrox. The fans are in one stand. Go back to the old segregation rules, which were long standing. So I don't see that being an issue. And I know that Mick had a story earlier today saying that Police Scotland aren't going to get involved in it either. It's up to the clubs in the SFA to come to an agreement. So Rangers, I say, they might be reluctant to give that amount, especially with so much on the line. But the rules are there for a reason, and I think it's the sensible outcome.
I'm not sure they're going to get the full Broom loan.
Well, I mean, O'Neill said today, didn't he, that he expects...
Yeah, I know. And listen, I think Celtic are going to ask the question, as rightly so, they should try and maximise as many tickets as possible. And the rules are there in their favour. I just think we have seen instances in the past, haven't we? I mean, did Celtic not back a request from Hibs to get 15,000 tickets?
Yeah, right.
And they end up with about 7 at Parkhead. And the reason was given with segregation issues and safety concerns and all that stuff. I just think Rangers might say, listen, we've got Celtic coming to Ibrox in the league 7 days earlier. There's nets up. There's segregation sorted for that game. We can't turn it round again for a week later. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if Rangers say their stance would be you can get the same as you get in the league, which is what, 2,000 or something like that.
2,000.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they try to go for. Celtic want the full stand, and I think the SFA will have to be involved in this as well. I think it's going to rumble on because I don't think they're going to meet in the middle straight away.
Of course not.
I think Rangers will have major reluctance. If they can find a way not to allow that stand to be filled with Celtic fans, they will pursue every avenue to do that. And likewise, Celtic will be pursuing every avenue to get it filled.
Yeah.
So I think this story has only just started. How it's resolved, I suspect that's the way it's going to go. I think that's the reason the nets are already up. The place is ready for the same number. Well, that's acceptable. I don't know. And in Celtic, I think will fight it.
I hadn't considered that, Mick. Like, I was thinking in my head, well, look, they used to take the Broomloan stand. I mean, for the best part of 100 years, that's how they did it. That's how they do it. Let's go back to that. But I hadn't even considered, of course, the game the week before, they'll be all set up already. So I guess it could go either way.
I just think there's going to be some jiggery pokery around this. And I don't think it's going to be a smooth. We want this. Yeah, no problem. We'll look forward to seeing you in the 8th of March, whatever it is.
It'll be a circus, but I think, it's in Rangers' best interest not to allow Celtic to get the full Broomloan.
There's a wriggle room to take it. Of course they would.
They're clearly going to object to that and state their case for probably just the original allocation that Celtic get for league games.
Yeah.
But I think, to be honest, segregation, as I said, Celtic have claimed the Broomloan stand for years, and there was never any issues. You could probably argue Ibrox at that time on game day was probably the safest place in Glasgow to be because of so much security, stewards and police. I get the point about nets now. There has been a lot of issues with coins and bottles being thrown. So that's a valid point you raise, Mick, to be honest. But I think for the good of the game, we really want 7,000 away fans at derbies going forward. And my personal hope was this might be an opportunity to stake a claim for that. And both clubs coming to an agreement that they could possibly reintroduce this from next season onwards. I know that might be a bit hopeful, but
both sets of fans putting flowers in their hair and holding hands and doing a big ring of roses in the middle of the centre circle. Absolutely not a chance.
I don't know, you guys. I think the atmosphere at these derbies now is completely diluted since 2018. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I know they've increased it from 700 tickets to 2,000 tickets or whatever it is, 2,500 tickets, but it's still not the same. I don't really think it's a bucket list game anymore with the current fan allocations. So, yeah, for the greater good of the game, I think it'd be best for Celtic and Rangers to allow 7,000 fans back in, and they can make a start by doing it in the Scottish Cup. But like you say, this is Celtic and Rangers, so there's going to be a circus around it.
I think that's not my personal opinion that's what it should be, the 2,000.
Yeah.
But I just think I can see a scenario unfolding. Well, that's going to be a debate. So I don't think it's going to be a straightforward assumption that they get the Broomloan's going to be opened up for Celtic fans. But for a spectacle, that's what you want. Listen, you want that's exactly what you want. Whether or not it happens, I wouldn't be holding my breath. That's for sure.
The Senate thinks the Rangers have actually kind of mentally prepared for this scenario happening, because you remember that the Union Bears, the Ultras group, used to be housed in the Broomloan, and they've since moved across to the opposite end. So it's not. So again, you've removed that hurdle. It's not as if the Union Bears would be put out by 7,000 Celtic fans, because we know how it works in this part of the world. That would have been ultimate humiliation for Ultras groups. So that stumbling block's already been removed. I think it's just going to come down for tit for tat, to be honest. That's
what we do best in this country.
It's a speciality.
The last 8 ticket wars has been nothing but that.
I kind of thought that Celtic had made a compromise to begin with when you say, oh, look, we could go for 10,000, we'll settle for the 7. But I don't think it's
10,000.
that'll be the way that they try to play it. But it's not going to be smooth. It's not going to be smooth.
No chance 10,000. Let's just make that clear. Not a chance in hell.
No. Before we wrap up, guys, we mentioned that a little bit earlier on in the pod. Celtic playing. We're recording this before the Livy game on Wednesday night, and as you mentioned, Ryan, Kilmarnock away on that awful. I hate that synthetic pitch, and I don't even have to play on it. But see, watching games, it is brutal. But anyway, I'll get to my point. Do you envisage 6 points out of 6 for Celtic before we next do another podcast?
Let me just quickly interject. That sounds like a man that's done his ACL before.
I've done my ACL 3 times.
I know that.
5 operations. The right one twice and the left one side.
Oh, once was enough for me.
5 operations.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be. It's obviously a congested fixture schedule for Celtic. But in terms of the next 2 games, they couldn't have asked for on paper easier ones. You've got Livingston at home. They've got Marvin Bartley in charge. Pretty inexperienced at this level, so you'd really expect Celtic to get the job done at home there on Wednesday night. Going to Kilmarnock, they left it late last time. I think they got a penalty in the dying minutes, a controversial penalty. I remember Stuart Kettlewell kicking up the fuss about that one. So Rugby Park's always a difficult place to go, no matter how poorly Kilmarnock are playing. So I don't think that result is guaranteed, but again, with so much in the line, I think you'd expect Celtic to get the job done. Obviously, Neil McCann will be in the dugout. I'm sure he would love to do his old club Rangers a favour on Sunday. But yeah, you'd expect Celtic will have too much quality. And like we kind of touched upon, they've now got strength and depth. They've got game changers on the bench. Sebastian Konecki came off the bench on Saturday. He made a difference. So I think that Celtic, that'll be the case again on Saturday, and Celtic will just have too much for Kilmarnock.
Kelly, Mick, kind of from a Celtic point of view, gives me the fear a wee bit, because obviously away from home we've mentioned, but Neil McCann, I think, has kind of improved him, given him a shot in the arm. I know they lost 5-1 at Ibrox, but if you watch that game, for the first, Rangers got booed off at half time. Rangers could have easily been down to 10 men. It was a weird game, but all I'm saying is I think that will be very tricky.
Yeah, I think Celtic can get through this. Well, they have to get through this week with 6 points. There's absolutely no choice in the matter for Celtic, really. But given the way this season's gone, I don't think it's going to be straightforward. The Livingston game in Almond Vale, or the home of the Set Fair, or the Tony Macaroni, or what we call it, the NordVPN stadium, which is the best internet security provider out there, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. I was going to say that.
Do we get money for every time we say that? But that game was wild. That was, but it was 2 each in the first half an hour or something. It was bonkers. I think that game potentially should be fairly straightforward for Celtic, I think. However, you're right. Kilmarnock away is, it's really a fairly decent record down there, but there has been some really difficult games, and I think another one. I don't think that's going to be another straightforward afternoon. That last one you mentioned, that was in Iacho.
Yeah.
Kick, 97th minute.
Yeah.
Pretty soft penalty kick, I remember rightly as well.
Yeah.
By the way, that was a foreshadowing of the season that was going to be coming. I think it was maybe the second or third game of the season, wasn't it?
It was really early.
And that's been that kind of game is the way it's been all season. Last minute goals and scraping by the skin of their teeth. Again, Dundee on Saturday, 97th minute goal or 96th minute goal. I think it could be another one of those days. It could be another one of those days that just get out with a result. I think Celtic should have enough to get the result, but it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be a comfortable afternoon by any stretch of the imagination.
I think, to be honest, you never fancy Celtic to be blown away teams this season. I don't think I've ever fancied Celtic to win 4 or 5-0. I don't even think they've scored 5 goals this season in a game, which is remarkable. I think the most.
What's funny you mentioned that, right? See, last season, the kind of thing is that a lot of people say last season that after the new year, Celtic weren't very good. They kind of the season was done, and they kind of coasted away to the title. Do you know that Celtic after Christmas, after New Year last year, scored 5 goals plus 8 times.
Wow.
8 times they scored more than 5 goals, including a 6 against Aberdeen and against St Johnstone, maybe?
No,
5 goals against St Aberdeen twice. They scored back-to-back. 5-0 back-to-back at that point. 8 times in the second half of the season, they scored 5 goals plus. And that was rubbish, apparently.
And I've actually just checked that they've scored, obviously, 4 against Utrecht, 4 against Dundee United, but I haven't done it once this season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, you just like Mick said at the start, I think the performance levels seriously need to improve, especially heading into this make or break part of the season. And if they can, and by the way, this is something that's not really been considered or brought up, but it could come down to goal difference this title, by the way.
Aye, of course.
And Celtic's goal difference is not very good.
Yeah, exactly. So they should seriously. So that's something they've got to consider. And it's happened. When was it? 2003. It came down to goal difference, and Rangers won it by a goal.
Aye.
So the way this season's going, you wouldn't rule out that happening again. So they need to find their shooting boots. That's for sure.
That's what I'm saying. I've got it from here. Last year, so back to back, 6-0 Dundee, 5-0 Raith, back to back. So 11 goals in 2 games. 5-1 at Aberdeen against Aberdeen at Parkhead.
Aye.
5 against Kilmarnock at Parkhead. 5 at St Johnstone against St Johnstone in the Cup at Hampden. The following week, put 5 at Kilmarnock at Parkhead, 5 against St Johnstone in the Cup, and then 5 against Dundee United. They scored 5 goals 3 weeks in a row.
Wow.
To win the league last year.
Wow.
And then 5 against Aberdeen at Pittodrie a week before the Cup final when they beat Aberdeen. So 8 times they scored 5+ goals. And this year, it don't even look like they're hitting the target 5 times this year. 5 goals. It just shows you the drop off this season. And it just shows you people the kind of idea that Celtic weren't very good the second half of last season. So to go from that, this kind of multi-attacking, all-conquering side, I think, listen, by the way, they drew it, they get beat at St Johnstone and thought, like, this team's chucked it, needs to be ripped up. But yeah, it just shows you that, so they could really do with it, put the foot down. But I just think this week's going to be, I think the rest of the season's going to be a scrap. Every week's going to be a sort of battle over the line.
Well, look, whatever happens, guys, we'll be here to cover it on the Record Celtic Podcast, brought to you by NordVPN. But I think for now, that brings us to the end of this week's show. Ryan, Mick, it's always an absolute pleasure.
Enjoyed that as usual. Thanks, Dan. Cheers, mate.
Right. Thanks very much, guys. And as I say, we'll be back to do it all again next week. And I hope you can join us then. Thank you.